Today, we're talking about why hitting the $1 million milestone is the most dangerous moment for your retirement. Most people think $1 million is the ultimate finish line, the moment where the stress finally ends and you get to exhale. But the data-backed truth is that for many, it's actually a psychological trap. Not because the math is broken, but because the moment you reach that number, the expectations of the people around you shift. I'm going to show you why the smartest thing you can do for your long-term survival when you hit this 7-figure mark is to keep it a total secret. Look, I get it. You've probably spent 25 or 30 years grinding, skipping the luxury upgrades, and playing the long game while everyone else was spending. You've earned the right to want to scream your success from the rooftops. But before I show you the social tax, math that derails 40% of comfortable retirements, I need to ask for a small trade. If you value intellectual honesty over the typical get-rich-quick hype, hit the like button right now. It helps me signal to the algorithm that we want more logic and less Lambo talk in our feeds. Alright, let's dive into the reality of the $1 million trap. The common take is that $1 million makes you the bank. We're socialized to believe that once you hit that 7-figure mark, you've reached a level of wealth that allows you to be the permanent safety net for everyone you love. It feels like you've finally become the generous benefactor of your family tree. But the reality is that script writing for a successful retirement isn't an art, it's a science. I've analyzed the withdrawal rates of hundreds of portfolios, and the data-backed formula shows that $1 million isn't a mountain of gold. It's a small, finely tuned engine that only works if you keep the hood closed and the passengers to a minimum. Today, I'm breaking down the proven 5-step framework for why privacy is your greatest asset. We're going to look at the social tax, the $20 an hour portfolio, and the exact plan for how to set boundaries without sounding like a jerk. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the silent millionaire is often the only one who actually manages to stay a millionaire for 30 years. The moment you share your number, you stop being a friend, a sibling, or a parent, and you start being a balance sheet in the eyes of others. This is what I call the social tax. Think of the kitchen cabinets analogy. Your family hears $1 million, and they immediately imagine a literal stack of cash sitting on the kitchen counter ready to be spent. They don't realize that most of that wealth is drywall. It's locked in home equity or tax-deferred retirement accounts that you can't just hand out without a massive 20% or 30% tax penalty. When you share that number, you create an unspoken expectation that you can solve every emergency, car repair, or business idea that comes your way. If you haven't built a generosity line item into your strategy, you aren't just giving away money, you are shortening your own retirement runway. That point is only important if you couple it with this next part, because if you don't understand the engine math, the social tax will bankrupt you before you even realize it. Let's look at the data-backed reality of what $1 million actually buys in today's economy. At a safe 4% withdrawal rate, a $1 million portfolio only generates $40,000 a year before taxes. Imagine your portfolio is a second you. This second you works 24/7 without a coffee break, but they only earn about $20 an hour. That's it. If you tell people you have $1 million, they think you're rich. But in reality, you just have a second person in the house earning a modest entry-level salary. If you ask that second you to pay for a $10,000 family vacation or a down payment for a relative, you're essentially asking that worker to hand over 3 full months of their salary. When you frame it this way, your net worth is just the oil level in your car. It doesn't tell you if the engine, your actual spendable income, is strong enough to carry extra passengers. Here is the villain of the story that nobody mentions at the country club or in those glossy retirement brochures. Sequence of returns risk. Even if you average a solid 7% return over 30 years, the math changes completely if the market drops during the same year you decide to play the generous benefactor. Think of the boulder analogy. You have spent decades of your life pushing this massive weight up a steep hill. You finally reach the peak. But those first few years of retirement are the most precarious moment of the entire journey. If you let people chip away at that boulder while you're trying to balance it at the top, or worse, If you give away $50,000 during a market downturn, you aren't just losing cash, you are losing the future compounding power of that money forever. When the market is down 10%, a $50,000 gift actually costs your future self closer to $100,000 in lost momentum. This is why the silent millionaire wins. They don't have to defend their boulder from people who don't understand the gravity of the hill you just climbed. To see how this plays out in the real world, let's look at two different paths. First, consider the Miller family. The Millers hit their goal and decide to celebrate openly. Suddenly, they're the go-to source for every emergency car repair and can't-miss business idea in the extended family. Within 5 years, their 4% withdrawal rate has ballooned to 6% just to cover the social pressure of being the wealthy ones. Their portfolio begins to cannibalize itself, and their second you is now working double shifts just to keep the lights on. Now look at the Davis family. The Davises stay the rational peer. They keep the number private. They continue to live a dignified, stable life. When the asks inevitably come up, they simply say, "Our assets are tied up in a long-term plan to ensure we're never a financial burden on this family." In the Davis scenario, they aren't being greedy. They are being responsible. They're ensuring that the engine stays running, so they never have to ask for a seat in a relative's guest room 20 years from now. The solution isn't to become a hermit or cut off the people you love. It's to redefine the vocabulary you use when you talk about money. Instead of focusing on total net worth, you need to pivot every conversation to cash flow. When someone asks how you're doing, you don't mention the $1 million. You mention the $40,000 of taxable income that your plan allows. It turns a mountain of gold into a modest salary. To make this feel real for yourself, break it down into a tiny daily number. Tell yourself, "I have $110 a day to live my life." That's it. When you see your wealth as a daily allowance rather than a 7-figure jackpot, it becomes much easier to say no to the things that threaten your freedom. You aren't saying no to a person, you're saying no to a math equation that doesn't balance. Let's pivot for a second from the math to the freedom. Imagine a life where your relationships are based on who you are, not what you can do for someone's bank account. Imagine Thanksgiving dinner where there are no toxic guilt trips and no unexpected calls from cousins you haven't spoken to in a decade asking for a short-term loan. There is a quiet, profound dignity in knowing your engine is running smoothly under the hood, and you have the power to stay exactly where you are for the next 30 years without ever needing a bailout. That is what privacy buys you. Stay the course. You didn't spend 30 years building this wealth just to impress people who weren't there when you were grinding in the trenches. You built it so you could finally be free. There is a specific kind of power that comes from being the silent millionaire. It's the power to move through the world without a target on your back, knowing that your engine is tuned and your future is secure. While everyone else is out there chasing the flash and showing off wealth they haven't actually secured, you're playing a much deeper game. You are protecting the second you, so that 20 years from now, you're still sitting at the head of the table, independent and dignified. If this rational approach to wealth resonates with you, and you want to see the data-backed truth that the flashy gurus won't tell you, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. We're building a community of people who care more about long-term momentum than short-term status, and I'd love to have you on the journey with us. Keep your number private, keep your engine tuned, and keep your focus on the long game. You're doing better than you think. Stay the course. I'll see you in the next one.